Hi, I'm Betsy Walkerman, president of Patient Choices Vermont. In 2002, my dad came up to my house to visit one day, and he sat down in this chair and he said, I have to have my knee replaced. Anything particular you have in mind? And he said, well, I'm not going to be able to go skiing this year out west. Jenny and I, my mom, and he were not going to be able to go skiing out west. So I need something else to do. And then he looked at me with a twinkle in his eye and he said, so let's make some trouble. And I said, well, what kind of trouble do you have in mind this time? And he said, well, I'd really like to get one of those Oregon-style death with dignity laws passed here in Vermont. You know, we could do that this year, and then next year my knee will be fine, and I'll go skiing out west again. And I said, well, Dad, I think it's going to take more than a year. And he said, well, who could possibly be against it? And I said, well, I think you're going to find out. Anyway, that was the start of Patient Choices Vermont. In 2002. It took 11 years for Act 39 to be passed. A lot of work. My mother and my father led this organization, which eventually had thousands of people involved. And we had many hearings at the legislature. Great people from Oregon came to testify. There were doctors and legislators and people with experience with medical aid in dying. Many people told their stories, and yes, the opposition did appear, and my parents learned who could possibly oppose this legislation. But in any event, the law was finally passed in 2013, and Governor Peter Shumlin signed it.
And I'm a cheap governor, but I'm going to use 3 pens on this one. So are we all ready? Wow. Go team, it's law.
Here's a clip of my daughter, Karen, talking to my mother about how this work actually happened. So we're now 6 years into having Act 39 in place, Vermont's end-of-life choice law. And interestingly enough, along the way, Governor Peter Shumlin's father used the law, which was something that he talked about in his last address to the legislature. Since the bill has been in place, by the end of 2018, 71 people had filed to be able to get medical aid in dying. We're sure that not all of them used it, but we do have those statistics. And those are about the numbers that we expected based on the experience in Oregon. About 80% of the people who requested medical aid in dying had cancer, and most of the remaining people had a neurological disease of some kind. And actually, my father had lung cancer in 2015, and he used medical aid in dying in October of 2015. He actually picked a date that he wanted to take his medication, so that created a window of time for all of us to get together and to contact people who had been important to him. And so dozens, maybe hundreds, I don't know, he got quite a few calls that week. He told me toward the end of the week that it had been a time when he had some of the most meaningful conversations of his life. And he was very grateful to be able to go out on his own terms. So as part of our work at Patient Choices Vermont, we've been getting around to talk to families who've had experience with Act 39. And I'd like to show you a clip of a video that we took of Peggy and Samantha Stevens. They live on a lake, and Peggy's husband, Eric, Samantha's dad, loved to be out in nature, and he took his medication sitting on the porch overlooking Echo Lake. In 2016, that's 3 years after the law was passed, the state of Vermont was sued in federal court by the Christian Medical and Dental Association. And they were alleging that their members, who were doctors, did not want to have to even discuss medical aid in dying with their patients. In our view, that essentially would have meant that the patient's beliefs were less important than the doctors. And of course, believing the opposite, we intervened in that lawsuit. The lawsuit was eventually dismissed on a technicality. Patient Choices Vermont is a nonprofit organization, a 501c3, which is dedicated to education, and that's education of both the community and medical providers. You can find us online at patientchoices.org, and there you will find both videos and the text of Act 39 and a number of pieces that might help you in various ways. We have a piece on how to talk to your doctor, we have frequently asked questions, and we're always adding information to the website, so please take a look.